Well, we're seeking not just to win seats, but actually to win the balance of power in the Parliament. In that position, we've got a strong case to negotiate with whoever wants to form government to say scrap the East-West link and spend the money on public transport.
You mentioned that the Greens have always had the balance of power. Do you feel as though if it comes down to it, that the Greens are willing to form a coalition government with another party?
Well, none of those parties have any Green policies to speak of, but we've got a long experience as the Greens being in balance of power in all sorts of parliaments, state and federal, so we'll negotiate to get the best outcome.
Do you think that the public's view on federal politics and the policies that the Liberal government have enforced will play a pivotal role in the upcoming state election?
Well, the voters I'm talking to can see a big difference between the two, and they know that at the state level, where many of our essential services are delivered, there's been a kind of a drift for 4 years, and some of our problems are starting to turn into full-blown crises.
The federal seat for Melbourne is occupied by Adam Bandt, the Greens minister. What do you think the likelihood of the Greens winning a state seat in the city of Melbourne?
We've come very close at a series of elections. The issues are really hotting up, such as the East-West Road Tunnel, which only the Greens oppose. And if we can repeat Adam's vote, yes, we should be able to win that seat.
How do you see your chances of winning the inner city seat of Brunswick?
Well, we've got a real chance in those inner city seats, but also in the upper house, any part of Victoria could deliver a Green seat, often at the expense of Labor or even Liberal and National Party candidates. So the good news is that everybody in the upper house is living in a marginal seat.
A V-line train into the regional area.
Well, yeah, I love taking V-line train and bus to get to where I'm going. First of all, it's very relaxing. I can work on my iPad and catch up on my emails, but also you meet a better class of person that way.
You mentioned that you work on your iPad and iPad, do you work on the trains and buses? Is that using 3G or is that using a Wi-Fi connection?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I get very little mobile coverage between about Sunshine and Ballarat. That's another important issue for this election, and it's responsibility of both federal and state government.
Will the Greens have a policy to amend those black spots that you mentioned?
Yes, we think the biggest priorities, in fact, for Victoria should be good services during times of emergency. And if you go to the Grampians, for example, where they had fires in January, they have very little mobile coverage, and we really need to get that fixed before next fire season if we can.
Youth unemployment is at 13.8%, a 15-year high in Victoria. How do you see the Greens implementing policy that would essentially alleviate that problem?
Well, overall, Victoria's got a very healthy economy, but in certain industries and in certain parts of the state, we have high levels of unemployment. This is not the time to be taking the axe to the TAFE system, because that's what we used to use as an economic tool to retrain people when there's necessary economic transitions going on, but we want to make sure that people aren't left behind or thrown on the scrap heap.